Hey guys, it's Jeff from Home Renovision. Today we got a unique video for you. It's going to be a whole bunch of Q&As, questions that you've been asking me, challenges that I've gotten from trade pros. Can you do this? Can you do this? Is this acceptable? Why do you do it that way? We're going to answer all of your questions while we're putting up the board, and then you're going to be out of excuses. Now you're going to be a drywall pro when you're done. All right? Let's just jump into this. Question number one that I get all the time. There's no framing here, right? Am I allowed to install the drywall if it's like there's nothing to screw the corner to? Yes, if you expect it to never see any action, right? If no one's ever going to be touching that corner, maybe you can get away with it. But the truth is, you don't know what people are going to do. And if you don't have backing behind your drywall, you're going to get cracks. So, stick some backing in there. Avoid your cracks. Live to fight another day, all right? It's as simple as a piece of wood and a couple of screws if I had it up high enough. This isn't about having these pieces of wood connected. This is about having something here so if there's pressure put on the drywall, it keeps it from too much deflection, okay? Now, question I get, Jeff, do you have to put drywall on the ceiling first? I've had so many people in the comment sections over the years. Here we go, Maddie, give me a hand with that. Tell me, you have to put the drywall on the ceiling first. That's the rule. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. It's also a rule to take your vitamins. Not everybody does it. But here's the deal. Whoops, wrong drill. The truth is, you don't need the drywall attached to the wall to hold the ceiling up. The entire sheet is held up with 2 screws. Trust me. When I put a sheet on the ceiling and I put 5 screws every 16 inches, it ain't bloody well going anywhere. And for everybody who's arguing right now, think about this. If your room is more than 8 feet wide, the sheet in the middle doesn't have any extra support on the sides. Oh, and it doesn't fall down. So let's not get our knickers in a knot. There are times when it makes sense. This sheet, for instance, had the brown paper facing out. And I can't put it on my lift without flipping the whole bloody thing over. That doesn't make any sense. It made sense to just toss this on the wall, get it out of my way, because the next sheet, it's got the white paper facing out, and that'll make getting on the lift much easier for me. Next question I get. This is a really good one, actually. How many screws do I put in a row? Well, truth is, you're supposed to have 5. That is the code in the building code for installing drywall. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 at the top. I'll get there in a minute. Oh, jeepers. There we go. Not every screw in the bucket is going to be a good screw, all right? You're going to have accidents, so don't worry about it. People ask me all the time, can I cut the hole first and then stick it over the box? Or do I have to buy a drywall cutout tool? The truth is, the drywall cutout tool makes things much quicker, and it eliminates the step of preparation when you're taping. So, if you're really good with measuring, you might get away with it. Okay, so let's take a look at this. We'll try the system out, and I'll show you how I'd like to do it. I'm going to take an actual measurement of this box off the framing. 65 and 3/4, and then 68. And then I'm going to measure from my joint, not the ground. And I'm going to measure to the top of this little spot here and the bottom of this spot here. That is 30 and 3/4 and whoop, 34 and a half. I'm giving myself just a little bit of wiggle room here, okay, because I don't want to have to fuss around with it later. That's the dimensions. So here's how we do this. 65 and 3/4. Put a mark. 68. Put a mark. Using the square, I can put my square on the pencil line, and I'm going to go to 30 and 3/4. On this side of the square, it measures down. This side, it measures up. So, boom. There's my depth. And then I got 34 and a half. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to line up that line. And I'll line up this line. Boom. There is my box. Okay. Piece of cake, eh? And if you want to, you can go to the store and you can get something like this. Drywall saw. The teeth intermittently go like this. Does a great job of cutting a hole. And the system is simple. You line it up in the corner. Plunge it. And that can save you a lot of money. As you can see, I'm running into trouble in this particular situation because my drywall is taller than my hole. So I actually have to trim off the bottom, because one of the rules of drywall is this: you do need to have factory edges up against factory edges whenever at all possible. Whenever you're going to cut a sheet, you need two things. You need a pencil and a tape measure. Okay? You measure all three ends. This is 46.5. Get in the habit of writing your information down on the wall. Go to the middle, especially in basements. Well, 46.5 still works. I don't mind a little gap in the bottom. That's almost tight. Okay, so it was really tight down there, so I'm gonna go 46.25. And I'll let the variance in the gap be at the floor, okay? The reason we're not gonna just cut across the top, we're gonna cut across the bottom, is because this is tapered edge. This is thinner than the rest of the board. The board travels like this, and it gets to the edge, and it scoops in. And then you want the next board to have that scoop, so you can put your mud in your paper and get a flush finish, okay? So 46.25, find my mark here, come across, and this is how I cut drywall. It's a great system. Lots of guys will go like this, right? They'll put the blade on the tape, and they'll just use this finger here to guide. But you gotta have callus to do this, all right? We're homeowners here. You guys don't have that callus. So if you use the tool, you can set the blade on the aluminum and into the drywall. Just the tip. We're just cutting paper. Slice it all the way down here. And when you get to the end, lift it up. Boom. Okay, perfect every time. This is 1/2-inch drywall. It breaks real easily. Okay, so just a little bit of a roll, get it snapped, and then you can fold it. And the way we do this is we reach underneath. We stick the blade through the inside of that corner. Okay, and then we're going to pull it towards us. But instead of moving your arm, move your whole body. You can't cut yourself if you're going like this. But if you start slicing like this, ouch. I've had people ask me all the time, how do I make my edges nice? You know, it's just drywall. But I'll show you this while I'm thinking about it, because some applications, like if you're building bulkheads or you make a mistake when you're putting your butt joints together and you cut the wrong end of the drywall, you might need to make it smooth. And you use a tool like this. Knock down all those ridges. Okay, that's called a rasp. And it can be your best friend whenever you make a mistake. Okay, here's where we're going to learn a lesson, kids. I measured to the location of my box from the height of the box, right here. But wouldn't you know, this back wall, it's an exterior wall. And unless things are perfectly square and plumb, okay, you can't measure from here, because this wall goes like this. So my measurement came from here, which is much bigger than where the box is. So now my hole is not lined up right. And it's not the end of the world. Now before I worry about that electrical box, I'm going to hang the sheet. Again, with 2 screws. I know. But if you don't break through the paper, then that screw head will hold a lot of weight. A full sheet of drywall, 10 feet long, weighs about 50 pounds. So that's only 25 pounds of screw. All right, let me go take a look at how bad my situation is here. That wall is out of level by almost 1/2 inch. So this is what happens. You're gonna come back here now, and you're gonna be doing this all day long for the rest of your life, which is why we use the cutout tool. Really quick. Electrical boxes are notorious for causing nail pops. All right, how to avoid nail pops? Well, here's one way. Don't put screws near the corners here, okay? You see these 2 tabs? There's an electrical box, the plug gets installed over top of it. And they get tightened up until the box is putting pressure on the drywall itself, okay? So if anything is close to it with a screw and it's not in perfectly, this movement here is gonna pop it off the head. So, always at least 6 inches away, so you can avoid that kind of problem. Okay? To solve ugly messes like this, do not buy a 2-foot by 3-foot wall plate, okay? Get yourself a little bit of expansion foam, have it handy. These new cans are awesome because the tips don't seal up. You just take off the dry part and it's good tomorrow, which is amazing for what we're doing. We're just gonna throw a little bit of foam in here, Oh, hopefully it's not too excited. These things are a little unpredictable too, so be ready for that. Okay, there we go. We'll get back to this later in the video and we'll show you what to do. Question I get, Jeff, how do you avoid having to get a chalk line out or measuring off where all the studs are? Ready for this? This one's gonna blow your mind. Put a screw on your drill, hold it where the other screw was, and trust the fact that the framers like to make things go up and down, relatively speaking, and then just loosen up your hands, let gravity drop the drill. Boom, stud. And you can do that all the way to the bottom, over and over and over again. Nice and quick. You don't have to think twice, all right? This will increase your speed of installation dramatically. Not to mention using a drywall screw gun with a depth setting chart and gauge on it. This allows me to adjust the depth that I'm setting the screw at, which is important because if you're just doing 1/2-inch drywall, it's one depth. But if you're doing layers like for soundproofing, you're gonna find you need a little minor adjustments. Also need to adjust this for steel or wood because the screw head reacts differently. Jeff, what do I do when I break through the paper? This is guaranteed to fail. It's gonna be a nail pop. So, treat it like a nail pop. Put another screw in and don't break the paper. That's all you have to do. You don't have to remove it. Just make sure you put another one next to something that broke through the paper. Piece of cake. Next question. Do I have to cut my drywall first? And the answer is no, you're better not to. And I'll tell you why. Because of the level and square issue. You don't know how your drywall is gonna line up. And even if you measure it first and then cut and you think you got the right measurement, you might be wrong. So, install your drywall. Take your knife. Just scratch the paper. Okay? There's a lot of plastic here. All right. Then you grab it, 2 hands. And you fold it. And that is perfect every time, all right? And then we just trim it off. And now watch this, because I see people do this all the time. They're being way too aggressive when they're cutting paper. I want you to look how thin that paper is, okay? It's thinner than an 8.5 by 11 you use in school. Like it's really super thin. You don't have to stick a knife in there. You don't have to pull your blade on, rah, all right? It's just nice and easy. This one blade, I've installed almost all the drywall in the entire basement, all right? It goes this easy. Just the tip. Just a little scratch. Done. All right? This does not work. And if you fold it nice and tight, it guides the blade. If you go like this, you're gonna be all over the place and have a lot to clean up. If you fold it in nice and tight, all right? Then you can open up your blade, and with the base of the blade, you can trim back any extra pieces that are in the way. And remember, as long as that tip is sharp, it's good to use. And if it loses its edge, okay, that's all, piece of cake. Next question, Jeff, I'm just doing a simple project. Do I gotta go out and buy a brand new tool? No, you can go out and get this, okay? This is a really nice version of a dimpler bit. It's adjustable, but they also have a $3 version that works pretty darn all right. Basically, it's the same thing. You set the depth on it, okay? And then you can use any drill. That's an impact driver for Pete's sake. And it works. Okay, another tip. When you're hanging drywall, mark where your wood is. As soon as I start putting that sheet up here, I've lost any ability to know where the 2x4s in that ceiling are. All right, and you always mark the middle, not the edge. There we go. Now we're ready to throw the drywall up. Now, if you're a fan of the channel, you've seen me using drywall lifts for years now. And there's a reason for it. I get asked, how come you don't just lift it up and use a 2x4? Or 2 guys on a ladder? Here's why. I'm a 53-year-old man. When God gives you a bridge to cross the highway, you take it. You don't run around playing Frogger. This is heavy, it's awkward. You don't want to be on a ladder. You know how easy it is to pull a muscle, and there goes your whole weekend, right? Rent the bloody tool. It only costs pennies a day. And when you use a drywall lift to install your ceilings, you can put, I don't know, maybe 20 sheets up in an entire day. It's a one-day rental. How many people are putting 20 sheets of drywall on their ceiling? Trust me, it's an investment that's worth it, because this is so much easier. When I was young and dumb, I used to sit here fighting only with my head. All you got on your drywall was a grease spot that showed up through the ceiling paint. And there are people out there going, oh, that's what that discoloration is. Yep, Oil from your head in the paper with latex paint leaves a stain. So if you're going to avoid it, just use the lift. Now real quick, so you know, this is your safety lever. Hold onto the wheel, lift while you're cranking, and it releases, okay? So I'm going to push forward and lift at the same time. And then I can back this up. And you'll notice I don't have all the screws in. Okay. Just the edges. I just marked out where the studs are, that's it. Once I get all the drywall hung, I can get this out of my way, jump on a ladder, and fill in all the holes. Another question, what do we do if it's not square? Right, so I'm straight across this wall. I got a gap here, and no gap here. Nothing square. Which is one of the reasons why a lot of people do the ceilings first. Because then they can cover gaps with the wallboard. That's the only reason it goes up first. It's not for structure, it doesn't carry any weight, it's got nothing to do with that. It's just to manage gaps. However, that's why I only did on one side. Now if I have a gap over here, it's fine because I'm going to put on wallboard to cover it, okay? By the way, if you're doing a basement job, you need a marker. Here's why. Walls have plastic on it, okay? And the marker, you can write on, even on dirty plastic, the center for all your studs. Not just there, but also on your vapor barrier, on your ceiling, you can mark off your stud locations on the plastic. All right, so make sure you get yourself a decent marker and it'll save you a lot of hassle. While I'm here drawing pictures, I get a question like this all the time. People have a tub, okay? Here's the tub in their house, right? Yay. And what they do is they'll install cement board up to about 3 inches past the tub all the way to the ceiling. All right, and they ask me, how do I join the drywall? Right here, what do we do with that joint? Here's the system, okay, ready? You don't join them together. You don't worry about that. What you're gonna do is you're gonna tile just past that joint. All right, it's okay to tile on drywall as long as it's outside of the wet area. The wet area is literally mostly right here. So you've got cement board past your tub. You're tiling a couple inches onto the drywall. No mesh tape, no thin set, no adhesives, no nothing. Ignore it, it does not matter, all right? Neither of these materials expand and contract, as a rule. So as long as you know that you're gonna be tiling past it, you can ignore that joint like it doesn't even exist. And I know that offends some people's minds because there's always the types of folks out there who want to caulk every crack, even if it isn't going to cause you an issue. This is how we do it, all right? The only other option you have, instead of cement board, you can use Schluter Curdy board, okay? And you can bring that right out into the middle of the room. Doesn't matter. Because Schluter Curdy board, you can actually tape that joint with the drywall like a butt joint. Paper tape and compound, regular all-purpose compound. And then you can do your tile work, all right? And then you can even come back and you can smooth coat that orange board with drywall compound, sand it down nice and paint it. It actually works. It's one of the tricks of the business, all right? So if you don't want to have a gap in behind your tile, use the orange board, bring it out past your tile, and tape the joint to the drywall. Piece of cake. So here's another thing, okay? Questionable installation system. This water line is on clips right next to the stud, right at the surface because it was brought on the inside of the vapor barrier, which is a proper way to do it. But it contravenes common sense with what happens when the drywaller gets here. What if the stud's on an angle? What if Jeff is guessing where the stud is, right? Here's a system that we use, D and S, okay? Means do not screw. When you see something like this, measure it off, get your pencil out, take that location, and just put this on your drywall, all right? It's okay in this scenario to not put any screws on this stud and just attach here and here, all right? Which would you rather have? The potential of a nail pop or the potential of a basement flood 3 or 4 weeks from now? Just saying. All right, far and away, the most important question I get asked is how to do a proper butt joint. What happens when my wall is longer than the drywall? Now, you don't have to have a 20-foot wall to have this problem. You could have a 10-foot wall, but you can't bring any more than 8 feet down your stairwell. Lots of basements are made that way, where you just can't navigate more than a 4x8 sheet of drywall. So, I've showed you in the past, and I've talked about strapping, right? And honestly, you can put strapping in. You can put in a 5-foot piece of strapping that goes to the entire joint, plus it attaches here, and then you can just continue drywalling. That's a cheat, but it's not ideal. So today I'm going to show you the proper way to do a butt joint, okay? And here it is. I've got a, well, let's call it a 13-foot and change wall, and this is my 12-foot drywall. Now you'll see the top piece. I've cut a whole long piece over here, and I got a joint and a little bit more, okay? Here's why. If my drywall came to here, I don't want to just measure and cut it so that I finish in the middle of this stud, okay? Because then I've only got one piece in this. There's no real rigidity here. I'd like to have a larger piece. So what I'm going to suggest is that you go back to the stud like this, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to measure left to right off the corner to get our length on the wood. And the way you do this to keep it from falling off is you have to put your finger on the tape and keep pressure, keep resistance on your tape, all right? And that'll hold the other end in place. 9 times out of 10, 6 days a week. Here we go. Now I'm going to just hold it against the drywall. 131.5 is dead smack in the middle. Again, write it down. So I measure left to right, but now I'm going to measure right to left because I want to have the factory butt joint on both sides of this line, okay? So here we go, 131.5, 131.5. Boom. Okay, now I use my square. All right, now I have that piece. I need a second sheet, right? So what I do is I want to measure, and you have to be careful here. If you measure into this area here, you're measuring a thinner part of the wall, okay? Get your tape a couple inches above the joint, so you're actually measuring the 1/2 inch thick. Come across, my line is 28.5 and a hair. Okay, again, measure, reverse, 28.5 and a hair. Okay. I want to put the inside corner in first and then attach this piece, okay? I don't want to attach the big one and then try to fill the inside corner in case everything's not square, all right? Let's get that out of here. Here's my factory edge. The way we do this is we're not going to be worried about this corner, okay? We're worried about here. And if I set this seam tight against this seam on both sides, that means this becomes a right angle, okay? And then the next sheet of drywall that goes on will be nice and tight against it. So, let's get our little foot pedal in place. Let's lift the drywall up. There we go. Now you see I'm in the middle of that stud. And of course the stud has got more meat showing at the top than the bottom, and that's fine, that's normal. And I'm not going to put any screws in here just yet. That sheet's not going anywhere. I like it where it is. We're going to move on and get ready for this. On huge walls, and we'll just for the difference for you guys, I'm going to do the rotozip on the plug here. You'll see the difference in the quality and the speed. And you appreciate the tool. So I'm putting an arrow so I don't forget. This, Jeff, there's something here that needs to be cut out. And I'm going to measure to the middle of the box, 35 inches. Here's a system that works. It works. Oh yeah. Why not show you this? This is a great way to carry drywall by yourself. Use your wing, 2 hands, compression. Okay, done. You can drive that bad boy around all by yourself. If no one's around to help you, it's not an excuse to take a day off. Matt's like, fine, old man, do it yourself then. For the sake of being perfect, Matt, I am going to get you to help me out. Working with 12-foot sheets is not something you want to do alone because you can't manage lifting the sheet and manage closing this gap all by yourself. All right, anyway, let me just hang this sheet in place. Thank you for your help, sir. All right, here's the standard process, all right? We're stitching in the wound. 1 screw on each side on a 5-degree angle, not square, okay? And the heads should almost be touching each other, all right? That tight. And the way we do it like this is for this reason. Drywall likes to break, and if there's too much gap, it has somewhere to go. Stitching on a 5-degree angle gets you a nice clean joint. There we go. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 locations as always. Okay, now we know how to screw it together. I'm going to do the cutout tool, and I'm going to show you how to tape the butt joint. That's right. And then we're going to show you how to avoid blisters and air bubbles and all that kind of cool stuff coming right up. Okay, coming down here 35 inches. All right, there's my spot. I'm loving that. Just to help you out, the shape of the box is this. Okay? And what we're doing is we're going to punch a hole, run it to the side. When we hit the metal, we'll jump to the other side, and then we'll have pressure like this as we drive around. Knowing that when I get here, I'll just do a little jump, hit the box, and then I'm going to have pressure this way as I drive down the box. And then pressure upwards on an angle as I drive this side of the box, and so on and so forth. A little bit of experience, you can get this done real quick in a hurry. Okay, so now there's no need for any foam. There's no need for any fooling around. We're good to go. Again, 6 inches from the box. Okay, that's the rule. That's my rule anyway. All right, nice and easy. Okay, one of the most common mistakes people make when they're doing their taping, there we go, is they get the pre-mixed mud. They grab it out of the box. There we go, time to tape. Now, if I had $1 for everybody who asked me, Jeff, how do I avoid having bubbles in my tape? I'm gonna answer it the hard way. I'm gonna screw the job up here on purpose, okay? So, you take your mud, you haven't done anything to it yet, and you press it into your bead, and you're gonna bed your tape. Okay? Now you get your tape, and you try to do everything right, you get a nice edge, and you put that in there. And here's what we're gonna do for you guys. I'm gonna show you how to do it wrong, and then we're gonna film the rest of this video the next day after this is dried and bubbled up. So you'll be able to go, oh, so that's how it happens. And I'm gonna tape this piece right so that you can see the difference, okay? Now, a lot of people, you're gonna press that tape on. There we go. It's bedded. That looks good, right? Nice and clean. Looks like a drywall job, eh? That one's gonna bubble, okay? And here's why. Rule number 1 with mud, has to be worked up. You can't just take it out of the box or the pail and start working with it. It has to be mixed. Either use a mixer or use a 4-inch knife on your hock. Okay. What this does is it softens it up. All right. Now, in a perfect world, you should also add a little bit of moisture. But if you follow this taping process, all right, let's get it on there. Same thing. I'm going to work right up to the butt joint here for the purpose of this demonstration. Okay, and let's leave a gap here on purpose, okay? So far it looks a lot like the same, eh? Not a lot's changed here, Jeff. What are you doing? What are you teaching me? Here's what I'm going to teach you. This is going to save your bacon. Press it out, just like before. Nothing new here. Now, this is where the fans of the channel know what I'm going to do. Wait a minute. That's it? Yep. You have to add more moisture to the paper by putting a skim coat right over top. Okay? And always clean. This looks different than this because it's wet and that's dry. I guarantee you, tomorrow when we come back, this is going to have blisters in it. And then I'll show you how to fix those blisters too. We're back in this corner. This is the tape that I did without any surface tape. You can see how dark it is. Look at the dark yellow. This is tape that has been mudded over top. This stuff shouldn't bubble. This stuff should. If I know what I'm talking about, it'll bubble up. So let's put a little bit of moisture on here and see what happens. Hopefully, we'll get some action. All right, we're gonna give that 1 minute so that the bubbles can show up. Now, in the meantime, here's a couple little tips for you, all right? Whenever you're working, always take your 4-inch knife and clean any ridges, okay? Before you add more mud. Remember, the goal here is to fill gaps, okay? So if you leave a ridge, you're not filling a gap. Now you're filling the gap plus what's in the ridge, plus all around the ridge, all right? Keep it nice and simple. Second coat, first coat we go 4-inch. Second coat we go 6-inch, okay? And we want to build up both sides and create a nice clean edge. And the way we do that is we apply the mud, okay? Nice and clean. And then I put the knife in the corner and I'm going to clean out any extra. I'm going to come over here with pressure and feather that edge. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to press and fill it in. That should give you a really perfect edge, okay? Now, then you do the back side. 4-inch and then a 6-inch. And yeah, that's 4 days, and that's okay. Because this is not a rush, okay? We're looking to get perfect. If you want to be fast, go use all the commercial machines. Get the banjo that does these edges. Get the bazooka that does all your inside corners, okay? The problem with those machines is they don't bed the tape like this, okay? I can walk into any brand new house, 1, 2, 3, 5 years old. I can just go to the middle of the wall, cut it, grab that paper, whoosh, rip it right off the wall. It was never bedded. It was just laid in there with some mud, right? This is called bedding. This gives you a best finish that you can get. My process gives you the best corners you can get. Everything else is a joke. It's about speed. But this is supposed to be an art. It's a skill. Now, when you buy brand new tools, get a sanding sponge. Okay, sand it for a few minutes. Both sides. A lot of these knives come from the factory with little dimples or ridges, okay? And you want to sand that out. It's microscopic almost, but it's true. And then when you go do this, you're going to have these thin little edges and ridges in your mud. And that means you're going to have to come back and sand all that smooth later. So better to sand your tool once than every joint you work with for the rest of your life. Is anything bubbling? I got to pull this off now and see. Isn't that something? Even when you don't make the tape as wet as it should be to avoid bubbling, if you bed it properly, it doesn't bubble. I guess that's the answer to the question how to keep your tape from bubbling. Proper bedding. Now, if you watch the YouTube, if you watch the shorts, you'll see this. They'll take a bunch of mud, all right? And they'll go, well, look how fast I am. And they'll throw tape on that, okay? The problem is, so much bloody mud on the wall, it doesn't have a choice but to blister. Less is more. That's actually my second coat now. Think about it. Do you want to put 30 boxes of mud on the wall or 5? This is a whole basement project. We are looking for a flat surface. Less is more. If you use this tool, you'll always get a straight line. Doesn't matter how much pressure you put on your edge, okay? It doesn't bend. It's not like those other tools. And by the way, we're doing a video coming up real soon where I explore the difference between the hawk and the pan, pros and cons, and what tools you should be buying. I have a little bit of a bias, obviously, but that's because I love this tool. 4x10, ergonomic handle, German steel. Can't go wrong with this tool, and I can't use it with a pan. I got to use some other little hokey, sticky thing. Anyway, let me go show you a few more tips here about doing some joints, inside, outside corners, and what do you do when your drywall is damaged and it's installed? How do you fix it while you're taping? That's a big problem that a lot of people have. I got a few more tricks up my sleeve. Let's just jump right into it. Next tip is when your kids use permanent marker on your walls. Now this isn't even a drywall tip. It could be a painting tip. But the point is this, there is a solution for permanent marker. So if you're on the job site and you can't find a pencil and you got to make a mark, it's okay. Always have a can of oil-based aerosol spray. Now this is the odorless Zinsser. I always use Kills, but Kills has had supply issues recently, keeping them stocked on the market. It might be my fault, I'm not sure. This product works as well, okay? It's available in the local hardware store. There we go. You just throw a little bit of that on there, and there's enough solid white pigment in there that it just eliminates that black mark. Boom. Ready to be painted in about 10 minutes. Okay, so now we're taking a look at an outside 45. This is not a 90, this is a 45. And this is 5/8 soundproof drywall, right? So like, it's a bit of a challenge. You can't just use a knife on this. Gonna wanna get yourself a good old fashioned carpenter saw, fine tooth, okay? And you can just run it right against the drywall, trim up your edge perfectly. Perfect, all right? That gives you a lot of exposed drywall, right? So here's how we're gonna handle that. Gonna blow your mind. We're just gonna use some compound. And this isn't about being pretty, this is about getting it done, okay? Do the top as well. If I'm gonna demonstrate a joint, I might as well just do the joint. All right, here we go. That's pretty damn muddy. We take our paper, we're going near a ceiling. Cut it straight, okay? We're gonna set it right up to the ceiling and right up against the side here. We're gonna cover all that exposed drywall, okay? There we go. And I'm gonna bed the tape. Make sure you get a little bit of moisture on there. Okay, now we got an edge. That's good. When you go to the drywall store, or your Home Depot or your Lowe's or whatever, your building store, you're gonna find this product. Perfect 90 or straight edge. There's a couple different competitors. Okay, and we're gonna go that tall. This stuff is basically a cardboard version. It's really rigid, okay? It's not cardboard, it's somewhere kind of like a mix of cardboard and plastic. But you can make your own corner beads out of this stuff. All right, you just fold it over, really press it good. You can make your own outside corner beads because for whatever reason, the stores are having a hard time keeping the metal with paper version of the outside corner stocked. Drives you nuts. Over the last couple of years, every time I've gone to the store and I need a certain kind of designer bead for a fancy corner, they're never in stock. So here we go. Now I got that. Step 2, and this is good for any kind of repair. Ready? Paper and mud with paper and mud with paper and mud. If you have to patch a hole a mile long, you can do it all in the same coat. You don't have to wait for it to dry in between, all right? Of course, your hole's that big. You might want to just put another sheet of drywall on them, but hey, I'm letting you know there's nothing to stop you from layering compound and paper. It's never a bad thing. Okay, here we go. Other side of the corner. Working with the side of the knife. And I'm vertically challenged. All right, there we go. Don't want to have any bare spots, okay? Too much mud is fine, not enough will get you every time. Here we go. Now, white side out, the dark side, it's got really fibrous kind of feel. It's gonna have a great bond. Now, you can make whatever kind of corner you want with this, okay? Get down to the bottom, just trim off the bottom. It's fine if you come short. We're gonna put on trim, right? 3.5 usually is a minimum baseboard. So don't worry about that. Now with the 4-inch, you just take it and you bed that tape. Okay, see I'm only my edge of the knife is in the middle of the bead. Okay. Bedding it in the middle. So I'm cleaning it first time just to flatten this out a little bit, right? way over the edge. And then I'm going to come back in the middle and press it down. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm trying to trap as much mud in behind that corner as I can. So it's solid, it's filled. And then when I press it, I'm creating a void. Here, let me see if we can get this on camera, Max. Yeah. A void from this point to this point that can be filled. You see that? Good shadow? Because if you got a void, you can fill it. If you have a hump, well, then you're just in a whole lot of hurt when it comes to drywall. Okay? There we go. Clean it out, and then bed it. All right, now we're done. Or are we? Like I said, this is all paper. Paper and mud. Feel free to come back now, okay, and do a fill coat. Even if your mud is a little dirty or chunky, or your trowel is needing to be sanded and scratchy. See, I only ever work with one edge of my blade. Watch this. Nice and smooth, right? Here's the unsanded edge. You see that? Yeah. Okay. But I only work with one side, so I'm fine. I'm actually kind of lazy that way. There we go. All right. That's how you can build yourself an outside corner in any environment, no matter what the condition of your drywall, no matter what the condition of the angle. This works perfect every time, okay? Now it's going to take probably 3 fills in order to do that job, because when you put that much mud on it, it shrinks as it dries, all right? Don't worry about it. 3 coats in 3 days is fine, because remember, the inside corners take 4 days to do properly. So you're doing just fine. Now, let me show you the inside version of the same corner, because there's another trick for that one you're going to want to watch. Okay, so now we're doing the same kind of angle, 45 on the inside corner. Now, I managed to get a bead this time. So here's the metal corner with the paper on it, okay? That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. I can't just put the mud in and put this on and walk away. I did use a little bit of foam, right? So I want to trim that back anywhere that is sticking out too proud. And wow, that's just so I can fill up the gap a little bit. If you're a fan of the channel, you know that you have to fill gaps. You can't just expect the paper to do all the work. So if you add expansion foam first, then you can mud right over top of it. And even if it doesn't fill the whole space, it makes it so you don't have to have so much mud in that hole, and then it won't take like 3 weeks to dry. So let me show you my problem here. This corner was framed atrociously, not by yours truly. So here's my line in the corner. There it is. You're going to have situations like this, right? I mean, people that say, hey, we're a fan of the channel because when there's mistakes, you guys show how to fix it. Well, here's a mistake, right? If you frame with a laser level, then you won't run into this problem. And all this is getting the connection point. One of these walls isn't level, and I'm not sure which, and it doesn't even matter. But look where my middle of the joint, follow it up, and look at the distance. I am way out. Now, if I throw this in here, and I put the seam on my red line, and I try to go to there, I am in a lot of trouble, right? I can't make that work. But if I go to there, and I just move my laser level over a chunk, I move my line. So now I'm in the middle. And so it goes one way at the top, one way at the bottom, but I can set this up because this is a corner, and I can lay that bead in a lot of different variations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the bead in a variation that puts this crease on the laser line, okay? And I'm going to set that in the mud on that crease down there, and I'll simply roll it around to hit the crease there. This will give the perfect illusion of that being perfectly level. In this situation, you want to leave the laser line on, and you want to mud each side of this line like as if it's the inside corner, okay? Making sure to fill up any gaps that need to be filled so that the paper bead will actually rest nice in that corner. The benefit is this. You're walking through a room and you see a post. A supporting post holding up the house is level. and then it hits your eye. This corner and that post, they'll be in the same alignment, and you'll go, whoa, they're like this, right? What crappy workmanship. If there's no post, you just go, oh, maybe on the right certain day, the right kind of lighting. But in this scenario, having this trick up your sleeve, and you see this knife, there's the blue and the white. The blue is where the metal is. Because I'm cheating, I have to actually bed that tape and press it in even tighter than I would have usually, okay? Really bed that in, okay? Now, this is gonna be a bit of a challenge, getting this all pretty, all right? Don't worry about it. Here's the goal. First day, you go one side. So we're gonna use the 4-inch knife, and we're simply gonna fill with the tip in this groove. We're gonna use that as our guide. We'll clean, and we'll fill. Okay? Here we go. Get rid of the excess. All right. And then we'll fill again. There goes my knife. Okay? We'll get that so close to perfect, no one will be able to tell the difference from 1,000 miles away. Here we go. It may not seem like a big issue if it's not perfect, okay? But, okay, put a picture on the wall and hang it level. And then you're gonna have a 1-inch gap here and a 2-inch gap at the top. This is gonna look like silly, right? Making things straight and level, it's part of being a professional. And so if you're a DIYer and you wanna do things on your own, you gotta learn how to do it professional, or it just screams from across the room, all right? Don't cut corners on your work. Tricks like this can turn a bad framing job into a great drywall finish. Of course, the other option that you have is to ignore everything I just showed you and grab one of these tools. Okay, this black spatula, it's available at specialty drywall stores, okay? And you can just take a good chunk of mud, and you can run an inside smooth corner, all right? And that's great if you're painting everything the same color. Not so great if you're doing an accent wall. But it is an option, and it is another way to cheat, so that you can do an inside corner rounded, and there is no definitive line for anybody to judge against. So now I'm going to show you how to fix damaged drywall, okay? This particular sheet was damaged by the forklifts at the store that was selling it. Here I got good solid board with brown paper. Over here I've got damaged board, okay? And honestly, a lot of people in this business would just push this up, leave it all soft and mushy, and then tape it, all right? Problem is that's not strong enough to even withstand the pressure of rolling it. So you're gonna end up getting problems with that down the road. Over here I got a piece of drywall that's damaged, and if it doesn't have any structural integrity, then you need to have some integrity yourself, okay? You gotta fix this stuff. There we go, that's nice and strong. It's just brown. That brown paper blisters if you don't seal it. A little bit of oil-based primer sealer, problem solved. Give that 10 minutes. This area over here, it's just mush. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna just cut it right out. Get rid of the mush. You see how that's all just, it was dust. Okay, there's no integrity. You see the back side of this paper, it's not even bonded, okay? What do you do with a mess like this, right? Two options. One is expansion foam. The second option, you guessed it, mud and paper tape. Now, let's patch this first, okay? The secret here is to fill it with compound, even if it doesn't want to be, okay? It's gonna be a big, chunky bubble. What we're gonna do is we're gonna start by adding paper just to the side. Give it a little bit of support on both sides. Okay, here we go. Don't overlap the paper yet. Okay, Gonna give it just a little bit of support. Now, remember the motto of doing drywall work is to fill in gaps, not to mud over bumps, right? So we're going to make everything nice and wet, and we're going to see where it sags. Right here, okay? Now I'm going to push the paper up and expose the extra mud and remove it. Okay? Now when I clean, I should have a dent. Okay, so clean knife. I'm not getting any more material out of the way. Now it's perfect time. Yeah. To add another piece of paper here. Oh, I got a lot of mud on that paper. There we go. Now we're going to go over top. Paper over paper. Okay. Now, we're going to use a little bit of pressure and create a bump. Something I can fill. But I don't want to fill that today. I want to let all that set up. And then tomorrow when I come back, I'm going to have a smooth ceiling with a gap that needs to be filled. Okay? It'll be rock solid. Not a problem at all. Next day I come, I'm just going to treat that like a butt joint that's already been taped. Piece of cake. Now, of course, let's get on with it. Oh yeah. Watch this. If you have a hawk and you're applying mud on the ceiling, you got something to catch your mud. Keep your floors clean. That primer sealer is pretty much dry now. I'm not going to get too worried about it. Oh, nice catch. Oh. Oh. For those who are into games, trying to work an entire day on a ceiling without getting mud on the floor, that's fun. My God, eh? Here we are. Let's get right over there. Always paper over paper. Okay. Here we go. When you're doing your taping, you can use the hawk to hold the paper and stretch it. Okay? It's like having an extra hand and it never gets dirty. Okay. Now, the reason I got wrinkles here is my paper tape is on an angle. It's going on a bend. My tape is on a bender. That's awesome. All right, here we go. And stretch that this way. Clean that up a little bit. And of course, always finish with a bit of moisture. Oh, I failed miserably and something hit the ground. There we go. Okay. Whew. Remember, there are millions of people out there that do drywall work that are never around the house weeks, months, years afterwards to see the result of their work. They don't get to see all the cracks they cause by cutting corners, all the little issues that are developing with their nail pops because they didn't pay enough attention to the project, okay? And they think they know what they're doing. Knowing skills like this, when you're working on your own house, means that you can make things perfect every single time and that you can have confidence. The rule is really this: when you're doing your mudding, make sure that you always have paper on paper, okay? Be happy with everything that you do. Don't cover over screw holes with a mountain of mud. You're filling a hole. You won't get nail pops if you do everything right. You won't get cracks if you do it all right. Just take your time, be happy with every step that you do. You can be the best taper in your neighborhood. Cheers. And here we go, guys. We're finishing the video where we started. Back to this plug, right? We foamed it in. Take a brand new awful blade, okay? Trim it flush, right? Oof, ooh, ooh. There we go. That's perfect. Now here's the thing. If you filled it up well, that acts as an adhesive between the box and the drywall. Okay? There is no actual need for paper tape here. I know, that might blow your mind. All right? And there might not be a need to do any mud work at all. If you want, you can always check your receptacle. your plug and see if it's necessary. But if you're going to put mud on, watch this. You've got to put mud around the entire thing at the same thickness. Okay? Remember, the cover plate is a rectangle. You can't just mud one side. If you're ever repairing anything around a box, don't just put mud on one side or tape one side. You have to do the whole circle. You have to make the entire surface that that plug is going to go on the same depth. Because if all I do is fill up this side with compound, I put on that plug, I'm going to have a huge gap along the top of that box, and it's just going to scream. All right, so remember the goal here is smooth all the way around.